Hello everyone, Ogre27 Kane here today. We're going to do a review of Metroid Prime Remastered for the Nintendo Switch. Let's do a real quick overview of what this game is and what you can expect. This game was Nintendo's first foray into the first-person shooter genre for Metroid, and it is widely considered, and in my personal opinion, the best of all of them. Obviously, we got Metroid Prime 4 coming out here soon. That might top it, but until then, this one remains the top dog. Although being a first-person shooter, this game is a crazy fun action-adventure game. Just like any other Metroid game out there, it's all built around you going from one place to the next and finding all the power-ups. Let's start with gameplay first. I'm going to kind of mix combat in here with gameplay because frankly that's the majority of it. It is a first-person shooter, and so you are finding different weapons and different upgrades and different power-ups to help you in that journey. Although you are platforming and moving around and using things like the grapple beam and whatnot, the main mechanic and the main puzzle-solving tool you have in this is the first-person shooter aspect. At first you'll start out with a limited number of items and a limited number of places that you can go. But as you find more stuff, everything expands. The fun part about this game is that there are tons of things that are hidden everywhere, and sometimes the most rewarding aspect is finding something that you've been missing for 2 hours just to get through the next area. It never really felt like a chore, and I was always having fun with this game. The only gameplay thing that I would say has really any issues is because of the platforming. It does expect you to have a certain awareness of everything around you and what platforms you're moving to. Some of the most frustrating things in this game are some of the platform areas. There's one that I can think of in particular in the Phazon Mines that always drives me crazy. The nice part about this game is if you're used to things like Dark Souls 1, then this is the kind of game that kind of built that philosophy that allows that game to function. The whole winding back on the paths that you've been through and finding power-ups to get cool things along that path is part of the intrigue, and it's one of the reasons that Metroid started its own genre. Other than that, the gameplay's solid and 99.9% of the reason why you're going to play this. Let's hit the story now. From everything I can gather, the story takes place someplace between Metroid 1 and Metroid 2. This seems to be a rebuild of Ridley and some of the other characters in there as well. They did their best to try to fit the story in. It doesn't really make too much sense in the overall story arc of the 2D Metroids, but it does its job well, and there is a significant enough gap between 1 and 2 to legitimize the elements that they put into this game. While being pretty much a standalone story, it does yield itself at the end to the character which then epitomizes the enemy of Metroid Prime 2 and 3. But this game doesn't really have a lot to do with what they envision as the overall boss. That wasn't really part of the plan when this game was made. The story on this game follows the same standard trope. Samus goes to a station, it blows up, lands on a planet, has to search for bad guys. Other than that, you know it. You're just finding power-ups and exploring. Some of the bosses and some of the areas in this game, though, are extremely unique, and one of the main draws to play this game. I absolutely love the Phendrana drifts. They're not like anything else you'll find in any other Metroid game. While still a great story, it's not really what draws you to Metroid. Next up, let's hit the graphics and animations. The graphics on the GameCube version of this are amazing. Some of the best on that entire console, and some of the best in Nintendo's generations following that. When it went to the Wii and went to the Wii U, still maintained that absolute beautiful clarity. Now that it's on the Switch and it has the 1080 visuals, I can't speak more about this. This is definitely one of Nintendo's premier games, and definitely one of the best looking games. Whether or not this is a testament to Retro Studios and what they can do, or whether or not this is Nintendo trying to just push the hardware even more, I don't care. I really hope that if we do get 2 and 3, that they're at this level of quality that this one was. The game maintains a solid frame rate, and it always has a good color to it and a good movement to it. I never noticed any chopping or anything out of place. There's not any glitching. The monsters don't do anything funny or silly. The game just runs like a game should. Not only that, but really I should mention that this is a solid 60 FPS. They didn't make any cutbacks. There's no silliness to it like some of their other games. This really was something they worked long and hard on. Another thing I want to say is, being an old veteran of the original, a lot of the bosses maintained all of their fluidity of movement. Now that sounds kind of weird, but coming from the GameCube generation when everything was blocky and they hadn't quite figured out things like hands and faces and heads and things like that, and the animations were weird and stilted, nope, this game functioned really well back then and it still looks really good now. They did some amazing work back then. This is just a huge testament to it. Well, next up, I think I want to talk about some controls. So the controls in this game are kind of interesting. They do give you the twin stick shooter setup that works fantastically well for this game, almost simplifies it. But they do give the original option to go back and utilize the GameCube controls, which only uses one control stick for actual movement, and then it uses your lock-on basically to do a lot of the work for you. You use your other stick to switch between the visors. Now, because of this, it kind of does bother me because now I don't have as easy of access to switching between my guns. I have to hold down a button and then press another button. Not really a big gripe, but it is something that does add an extra step and it kind of complicates some pretty intense fights. Other than that though, I really like the control scheme, the new control scheme I should say, and I really like all the work they did on making the old one feel just as good. Although I won't be using it now that I have this new one, it is super good to have options, and there's plenty you can play around with to customize to get your sensitivity up. Now let's hit some audio. This is definitely a fantastic category. The audio in this game is to die for. I love the audio. Everything, all the ambient sounds sound great, they're right in place. When the music happens, it's always a tense moment. The game rewards you for really paying attention to it, and it builds that tension around all of the actions in which you're performing. One of my favorite areas in this entire game is the Magmore Caverns, just because of the callback to Norfair from Super Metroid. I also really enjoy the wrecked ship too, because of the Meridia feeling that I get there. But these are all nostalgia for me, on top of the fact that they're fantastically built tracks. Well, now it's time for the conclusion. Should you buy this game? Absolutely. Should we encourage Nintendo to report 2 and 3? Absolutely. We need to get so many copies of this game out on the market, absolutely flooded, that they don't have a choice but to give us 2 and 3. These are some of the best action-adventure first-person shooters you will ever play, and Retro Studios needs to be rewarded now for their work. The GameCube didn't do well and it didn't sell well. The Switch has the opportunity to reward these guys for all of that hard work. So, all that being said, this is definitely one of Nintendo's finest works, and I can't encourage you more to buy this game. Well, I really enjoyed this. This was a lot of fun. Thank you for watching today's video. It was a blast to make. I upload every single Monday. Please, if you enjoyed this, like and subscribe, and have a great day. This is Ogre 27 Kane, signing out.